Dear Mother, it has been a few months since you left us. Life has not been the same. I think of you often. Unfortunately, what I think about is not how I should remember you, but rather on how you lost your life. The way you lost your life was so unjust. It was so painful. So awful. I never told you this, but I used to cry myself to sleep every night. I used to cry in the shower. I cried hidden from you, as I did not want to show you weakness. I cried hidden from you, as I wanted to send you the message that I was going to be okay. I used to cry when I woke up in the morning, realizing that the nightmare never ended. It still hasn't. It still hasn't. The nightmare of you being gone. The nightmare of not hugging you. The nightmare of not speaking with you. The nightmare of not being able to see you. The nightmare. It persists. Like the darkness in the night sky, it is endless. It is endless. Signs of the nightmare began when I first realized there was an issue with your right hand. I think back to that moment, and it all plays back like a movie. A movie written in the horror genre. When you asked me to keep you in the dark about what was happening to you, when you asked me to keep your diagnosis away from your beautiful ears, I did, for as long as I could. When the doctor came in to break the news of the reality I could not have possibly comprehended at the time, the doctor, she came in crying. Her tears were there because she knew. She knew what was written for you, for us. She knew, like a prophet, what darkness was in store for us. She knew the suffering you were about to endure. The suffering we were about to endure. She knew. When I first saw your face, after knowing what was going to come, after knowing that they only gave you a year, after knowing the worst news to have ever befallen these years, you looked at me. You were reading me. You were reading my expression, my face. Because you knew me better than anyone to walk this earth. You didn't want to know, but you did. The look on your face was a look of wanting news of hope. The look of wanting good news. The look of wanting me to say, "Hey, Mom, it's okay. It's not a big deal. Everything's going to be okay." You were waiting for that. You looked at me with that look, and when I failed to give you the response you wanted, you realized my non-response was a response. And the gaze of your eyes fell to the ground because you knew in your heart that whatever that doctor told me, it killed me. It killed me. As it all played out, all that was in the back of my head was, how am I going to be able to handle this? How am I going to be able to survive watching you get physically pulverized until this finally takes your life? How will I maintain my sanity? All those images of people I have seen in my life that had cancer are now upon my family. All those images are now upon my mother. All those images are now upon my eyes. Upon us in 3D. Your fate was that. Just that. And it happened. My God, it happened. The horror slowly unfolded, unraveling of a nightmarish tale. Little by little, you died until your final breath escaped you. I was there for it. I was there for it. It was the loudest silence that fell upon my ears. Never was such silence so loud. Never was such silence so deafening. You slipped away silently, and it was beautiful. As you laid there in silence, it was the first time I saw you in peace in a long time. As you laid there in silence, I remember the warmth of your body withdraw as the ambient cool air began to breach the wall of your skin and penetrated into your body, and with no beating heart maintaining a blood flow, it soon became ice cold. I clearly remember the frigidness of it. I can still feel it. I am so sorry that I was unable to stop what happened. I am so sorry that I did not have the faculties to have made it go away. I am so sorry for my impotence. I tried all, and all failed. It all failed. However, just like you always taught me, you will find some good in everything if you know where to look, even in failure. You were right, as you always were. As the cliche goes, Mama knows best. And just like you gave me life when I was born, you gave me a renewed life in your death. As you died a little every day, the parts of you that died were reborn in my writings and in my films. Your life wasn't lost to the abyss. It was not wasted. Your death was not in vain. Mama, you were reborn as poetry. Poetry in which I discovered brings great comfort to others. Poetry that sings to the ears to those families that have been stricken with this malady. Poetry that brings about purpose and understanding. Poetry that massages the soul to a profound state. Poetry to find the beauty in everything, just as you taught me. Poetry to help find the strength where it seems to be none. Poetry in uniting those that know and share our pain. Poetry to bestow courageousness. Poetry to help send a message to the world that this monster exists among us. Poetry to reveal that no one is safe from this. Poetry embedded with a message that we need to wake up everyone around us and make them aware of this beast called cancer. Poetry to pull glioblastoma out of its hiding. Poetry to spread the urgency of this message that 40% of the population will be diagnosed with cancer in their lifetime. Poetry to let them know that 1 in 6 will die from it in the most horrific way. Poetry that makes the world realize that cancer is the largest threat to our mothers, our fathers, our brothers, our sisters, our children, and all our families. Poetry that will send the message to the governments of the world that needs to be done in waging war against cancer. Poetry to make a stand against cancer and apply the proper resources to fight against it. Poetry to tell cancer, please no more. And poetry to bring awareness.